As we head into the weekend, let's do a little check-in on weather around the world. First, Seymour Island in the Antarctic peninsula. Let's see how they're doing down there. Apparently it was 69.3 degrees today in Antarctica. That seems bad. Oh, you know what? Actually, let's just stay on here. Let's not do the other cities. Yeah, so Antarctica hit almost 70 degrees today.
February 9th.
That is insane.
No. February 9th, right? We don't know what it is today, do we?
Yeah, that was a couple days ago. It's just a joke. But I'm saying
Sorry.
insanely hot temperatures. And I want to give people an idea of how it's been developing. So you might have seen, thankfully, this almost never happens, but there were memes going around when back on the 6th, so a few days earlier, it had hit 65 degrees. And so that was considered likely a record at that point. But like when it comes to climate change, you can't take these records seriously because in a few days after that, it's only going to be worse. And so they're reviewing right now, the World Meteorological Organization was reviewing to see whether it qualifies as the continent's hottest temperature on record. So insanely hot, and one of the things that people like to do when they see something like this in the Arctic and the Antarctic, you want to compare it to other parts of the world? And so I decided I was gonna do that. So I hopped on a weather website and I started thinking like, should I check like Phoenix? Should I check Miami? No, let me start with stuff that's obviously warmer than Antarctica and then work down. So I typed in literally Death Valley. And do you know what temperature it had when I checked? 69 degrees. The same temperature that, yes, about a week ago it was in Antarctica. Death Valley. Not at night. This is during the day. And it was sunny, by the way. And it feels like 69, nice.
Okay, normally it is 39 degrees at this time of the year in Antarctica. So it is 30 degrees warmer. 30 degrees warmer in the place that is supposed to be the coldest place on Earth. So many parts of LA, as John points out, et cetera. You can go on and on about the different places that are colder than Antarctica now. Guys, it's not a joke anymore. It never was, but like, here, I'm gonna give you an analogy, okay? We're literally killing ourselves. The planet that we're on, the planet's gonna be fine eventually. It's just gonna shrug us off and we're all gonna be in great, great peril. Because we're worried about being impolite to Republicans and oil companies. So the analogy is this, and it's in a Malcolm Gladwell book, and you might have seen this. So the South Korean airlines used to crash more frequently, significantly more frequently than other airlines. So they did a study on it. They're like, geez, we got to figure out why the plane keeps crashing. They check the engine, it's not the engine. They check the plane, it's not the plane. And then finally somebody studies the black boxes from the crashes, and they find out what it is. It's the culture. The co-pilot, even seeing that the pilot was going to run into a mountain, wouldn't tell him because it was impolite. So the co-pilot finds in all these different crashes would be like, if it were to be a mountain, maybe we could be seeing it, but et cetera, the walk, dancing around and dancing around. He's going to die. The pilot he's being polite to is going to die, and everyone on the plane is going to die, but he won't be impolite. And so they had to teach the Korean pilots and co-pilots, this part of your culture is wonderful in other respects, but in this sense, you must be impolite in order to save everyone's life. And that's what we're doing here. But we're being polite to the people who are profiting off of disaster for the whole planet. And why? Because the media says the most important thing is civility. No, the most important thing is life on Earth. Civility to the people in the club that are profiting off of this disaster is not remotely should be in our top priorities, but it is. So we played nonsense games about whether it's happening or not. 99% of the world's scientists aren't making it up, and if you think that, you're a lunatic. I'm sorry if I was rude to you.
But like, if you're talking about civility, if you just think a little bit more long term, how polite is it? Even the people that we're supposedly trying to be polite to, the people in charge of the oil companies, people who don't believe in climate science. How polite is it to let them and their families die too? How polite was it for the co-pilot to let the other person die? It's the rudest thing you can do to allow another person to pilot themselves to death. And so like, it just doesn't make sense short term being nice over thinking if you want to be good and nice to other people think about their safety and their health, not just their immediate feelings.
Exactly.
So look, this doesn't just apply to politicians, it doesn't apply just to TV, it applies to people in your life. So if they say, no, I think it's a Chinese hoax, get them some counseling and say to them, look, you've been brainwashed into believing something that isn't remotely true. For God's sake, Antarctica is 70 degrees. The planet is melting. So when the ice melts off the land, it goes into the water. Then the water levels rise, and then there's acidification, and the water is warmer. That leads to extreme weather patterns, extreme hurricanes. You saw those 5 hurricanes coming out once a little while back, right? You see, for God's sake, it rained 48 inches in Houston in one day. If that was snow, it would have been 480 inches of snow in one day. We're breaking record after record. 99% of the world's scientists aren't lying. They're scientists. The planet is melting, and it'll be fine. We won't. Yeah. We won't be fine.
Yeah, not unless we're good swimmers.
In Miami, it now regularly floods without raining because the water is rising.
Yeah, and we did a story like a week ago on the Damage Report about the apparently potentially imminent collapse of one glacier, the Thwaites Glacier in Antarctica. And they said that if that glacier were to fully collapse and go into the ocean, it would raise world ocean levels by 2 feet. Not if Antarctica collapsed, or if West Antarctica, which is a big concern, collapsed, or if a region collapsed. One glacier in Antarctica would raise global sea levels by 2 feet. And it's expected that that is going to happen between 50 and 100 years in the future. They're hoping, but they're finding that there are these massive cavities that can hold, it's like hundreds of trillions of tons or something like that, but massive cavities that they didn't expect. And it makes them think that it might be imminent.
On the other hand, you wanted to be polite to your Republican uncle who watches Fox News. Chuck Todd wanted to be polite to a Republican senator who he needs on his show. And all the politicians wanted to be polite to ExxonMobil executives who give them campaign contributions.
Yeah. And by the way, we unfortunately don't have time to do it justice, but our last story was going to be a number of countries in Eastern Africa right now are experiencing famine that is expected to get worse because massive, unprecedented plagues of locusts are starting to spread across the region. And it is believed it is a result of conditions produced by a series of intense storms that created the humid conditions necessary for these locust populations to get something like 400 times greater numbers than initially. And they believe that those storms are more intense because of climate change, more frequent because of climate change. And so this horrific thing, it's imperiling food for more than 20 million people, is expected to be the new normal.
It's biblical in its nature. And here we are fiddling while Rome burns, while the entire planet burns. So we've got to be way more forceful and aggressive. Again, here we are on a rescue mission. We got to rescue ourselves. And the way to do that is to end carbon fuel. We've got to end it. We will transition those jobs to other jobs, but we cannot transition us to a different planet. The scientists aren't lying, Fox News is. Thanks for watching the Young Turks, really appreciate it. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. You'll get to interact with us more. There's live chat emojis, badges. You've got emojis of me, Anna, John, JR, so those are super fun. But you also get playback of our exclusive member-only shows and specials right after they air. So all of that, all you gotta do is click that join button right underneath the video. Thank you.